This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
Anyway, do you want to get into these books, these chapters?
You know, I think we probably should.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of names.
There's a lot of names.
There's a lot of eyebrows. There's just a lot.
I did get stuck in a research hole that left me barely ready by the time we began this episode. I was really trying to figure out a few details that took me back to Knife of Dreams, actually. So I have the Knife, because there's a Knife of Dreams chapter where they discover that Delana is Black Ajah. That actually has a lot of relevance to what's going on in these chapters and where these characters are. So, yeah. There's a lot. It ends up not being super important, but there's a lot.
Yeah. So it's a double header. It's probably going to be a pretty long one.
I've got, a lot of highlights.
So we should probably get into it. Chapter 45, The Tower Stands. And our symbol is the Flame of Tarvalon. Egwene walked slowly through the rebel camp, wearing a crimson gown, its skirts divided for riding. The color raised not a few eyebrows. Considering what the Red Ajah had done, these Aes Sedai weren't likely to wear the hue. Even the camp's serving women had noticed, selling their red and maroon dresses or cutting them up for rags. Egwene had asked for crimson specifically. In the tower, sisters had formed the habit of wearing only their own Ajah's color, and the practice had helped fuel the division. While it was good to be proud of your Ajah affiliation, it was dangerous to begin assuming that you couldn't trust anyone wearing other colors. Egwene was all Ajahs. Today, the red symbolized many things to her. The impending reunification with the Red Ajah, a reminder of the division that needed to be righted, a sign of the blood that would be spilled, the blood of good men who fought to defend the White Tower, the blood of the dead Aes Sedai, beheaded not an hour ago by Egwene's order. Hardcore.
Skirts divided for riding. They're not pants, but they're not pants.
Make that make sense.
Yeah, so this is her being badass. I mean, she's walking in after having just like the blood of, 50 Aes Sedai on her hands. She's just like, yeah, what's the worst the Amulet can do? Well, she murdered 50 Aes Sedai the day she came back on power. So,
maybe don't piss her off.
Don't piss her off.
Because, she went into the tower, basically completely destroyed the other Amerlin single-handedly, right. And then came back and before lunch had killed 50 sisters. Like, that is terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. Like, even if you know you're not a dark friend, you're like, well, maybe I am. Like, I don't know. If she says I am, then maybe I am. Like,
it's like Romaine is completely coward. Right? Like the two of them are just absolutely okay, whatever we can do, Amerlin, like we are your servants, right? There's no more competing really. The only competition is for her favor, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, who can be the most perfect kiss ass? Because they're both vying for the keeper.
Yes.
Right? That's what they're both. They become a little more obstinate once she has a keeper and that position's not available. But yeah, for now they are out competing each other for being good at their job, which is supporting her. And yeah, it's played off like it's just their ambition, but how much of it is also just a wee bit of boot shaking terror?
Yeah. I had a moment of confusion where I was like, Suan had found a great serpent ring. When did Suan lose her great serpent ring? And then I was like, oh, she found...
I literally had the same brain fart.
She found Egwene's ring. Which, wouldn't she have had that on her when she was taken?
Yeah, somehow Swan, I don't
found it in the mud.
The logic of that doesn't make sense.
And somehow Palpatine returned.
Yeah, because the ring was taken by the Tower Aes Sedai, so it's like probably in the Mistress of Novice's study. I don't think Swan side detoured over there to get one particular gold ring. I think she might have just handed Egwene one from the stack because Aes Sedai have a stash of unassigned gold rings as a rule.
It felt very good to have it on her finger again. Does not sound like it's a different...
I know, but when did Swan detour just to get her specific ring?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was a line where she goes to where she was captured and finds the ring in the mud. Am I wrong about that?
I think you're making that up.
I think I am. Okay, fair enough.
I'm pretty sure that doesn't happen. It would be very cinematic, but
yeah, no, I got nothing. It's
yeah. I'm not sure because they didn't give it back to her because she's still a novice,
right.
in terms of, so like I don't know how Swan had found her great serpent ring. Maybe she used Vora Sangreal to teleport in just for the ring. Because she did go on a mission to get the Oath Rod.
That's right.
Someone did go into the tower to get the Oath Rod. I don't think it was Egwene. I bet it was Swan. Because she would have had Vora Song. I don't know. I'm actually not sure who went to get that. But in theory, that mission could have gotten her ring, even though they wouldn't have been in the same place. Why?
There wasn't a scene where somebody gave her the ring back to her and she had it like tucked away, but she wasn't wearing it yet or something like that when she was...
Don't recall. I'm confused. This feels very...
It feels like a tangent.
Yeah. Anyway, not the important part of this chapter.
No.
Yeah, so we're getting a timestamp that literally so much has happened in the last 24 hours, right? The Shan attack, Egwene's return, and now we're headed off to do war. Like literally in 24 hours. This is the next day.
Oh, by the way, so did you notice that that Shuriam's death fulfills one of
Min's
prophecies? Yeah.
Min's visions. Yeah. Shuriam bathed in golden light. And you're like, that sounds nice. And then you come to this part and it's like, oh, that wasn't nice at all. That was the moment of her death.
It was gold and silver light because it's a silvery axe and a golden sun.
Yeah, it's like, what a beautiful prophecy for such a horrifying moment. You know, like it's this beautiful vision she has, doesn't provoke any feelings of dread whatsoever. And then you get to it, you're like, yeah.
Not always what you think they're going to be, those prophecies.
And Egwene has a hard line in the sand that she is not going to have her Aes Sedai do any actual attacking unless the Tower Aes Sedai join in first. She is going to make a gateway for the assault
herself, though,
which is
she hasn't sworn on the rod
right
yet.
Up against that line. Well, and it's right up against her own line. But still, she's like, if Elida starts it, we will go in swinging, but we will not throw the first fireball.
And here's what we get the line. Only 3 members of the Black Ajah had been discovered beyond the ones Varen had located. So, like, Varen got, 50 and, missed 3. So that's pretty good percentage.
Less than 10% of them being missed is that feels pretty freaking good.
Yeah. No, that's pretty amazing percentage-wise. So...
The Black Ajah is incredibly secretive. That's wild that she was able to expose 50 and only 3 got away. Or 3 were missed.
Because, with their hearts and everything, it's not like she can go and be like, so, who's on the Black Ajah, right? Who, she would have to, follow the tracks for years, knowing who the 2 Black Ajah that she knows are, figure out who they meet with, right? And then figure out who they meet with. And, I bet she had to follow that chain all the way down for years and years and years.
Yeah, it would have taken decades. I'm sure she did not consider her tally completely done. She told Egwene, I probably missed a few. I'm sure it was an ongoing project that she just, time ran out. And I also, the line where she talks about she understands how the Aiel could laugh at a beating because she'd rather get beaten than have to order the execution of women she had liked and worked with. Which is yeah, I'm a wuss, but ordering the execution of people because they're dark friends does sound significantly worse than a beating you can heal from. Because that means they're permanently dark friends and they're permanently dead. You can't, and not that the beating changed anything, but just she keeps escalating how she understands the Aiel's embrace of pain. It keeps deepening for her over time.
Yeah, I think, and just the grief of someone dying combined with the guilt of ordering their death, but having the duty to do it and knowing it's the right thing to do. I can't imagine, right?
But the betrayal
yeah.
of they were not working for you this whole time. They were working against you. It's too many emotions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And just the numbers too is kind of incredible, right? That's the other thing that's just stunning is how normalized it is for traitors in this tower to be in power.
It's the The draw of the dark is very alluring, apparently.
They talk about the warders here. Perhaps the innocent could be convinced to remain alive long enough to throw themselves in the last battle. I think this is the last time they're ever mentioned. Like, there's no... Oh, and then the group of warders of the Black Oddjaw threw themselves to death to protect the sisters for one more second. Something like that would have been like...
We don't even know if they take the offer, much less what they do with it.
Right.
I guess that's just leaving a bunch of open space for fanfic.
Right.
But
a lot of headcanon going on here.
Yeah. It would have been nice to have this thread get followed up on, because it is really bleak. The fact that some of these men are not dark friends, but are still having to suffer the death trauma. And, to know what happens to them would have been nice. Would have added even more weight to the warder bond, I think.
We really do lack a lot of any Sea Folk interactions in these last couple of books. The Sea Folk, they get the Bowl of the Winds, and they kind of work to help Rand and to control the weather during the last battle. But Sanderson doesn't write a lot of Sea Folk perspective.
He's not a big one for closure of the
No.
number of things that Jordan left open. He closes a few things, but there's a lot of things that I think Jordan would have given us more closure on.
Yeah, but we also would have had 5 more books.
And no one would have been mad about it.
So, are you kidding me? Yes, they would have been. Absolutely, they would have been.
No one whose opinion I care about.
Well, I think even back in the day, I would have been mad about that. I would have been like, come on, finish the series already. Now, obviously not, right? But now give me more.
Yes, I am speaking with the smugness of hindsight.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Like I said, I still remember when he started bringing Forsaken back, and I was like, really? You're never going to finish these books if we can't kill off any of the Forsaken. Because you can't finish the books till you kill off all the Forsaken.
Yeah, I was in my young, naive, and voracious reader part of my escapist adolescence, so I was just like, more books. More. More. I did not have many thoughts beyond more. I'm older and wiser now, and I understand the concept of ending a thing once it's done. So yeah, next we've got Romaine and Egwene deciding to do the gateway. More stuff about Romaine. Then the next thing I've got is the Black Tower stuff. Is this the part that connects back to Knife of Dreams?
Yeah, this is the stuff that connects back to Knife of Dreams.
Okay, because I did not do my homework. I just highlighted the words that seemed interesting. So please tell us what's going on here.
Okay, so as best I can tell, there's a group of women who are sent to the delegation to bond these guys as warders, right? This is all decided. This is Knife of Dreams chapter 23. This is the one where Ramonda remembers that Delana, Halima are dark friends, right? She figures that out, right? So it's that chapter. And there's a lot of politics that happened before that. And as part of that, one of the things they do is vote to send a bunch of sisters to the Black Tower as a delegation to bond them as warders.
Right, because they send an envoy to Saladar because Rand is offering for compensatory bonding.
Right. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, then the envoy says a man just tried to listen in, and that cascades the Halima reveal.
Right.
Because there is a man there who can feel Saidin being channeled. And that's why Halima's probe gets detected.
So, and it seems like Lelaine is the one who arranges to get rid of all of Egwene's supporters by including them in this delegation.
Okay.
And she does that basically to solidify her own power under Egwene.
Okay.
That's what is best I could figure out as to why those four, basically the four supporters, Nisal, Myrell, Phelan, and Theodrin, some of which were not the most appropriate. One already has a warder, two of which are, novice or still accepted, whatever part accepted.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't
Super
make sense for
accepted.
them to be part of that delegation to go bond a bunch of Black Tower warders. And they do eventually give up their spots to other sisters and don't bond anybody from the Black Tower.
So did they come back to the tower?
And then there's a big kind of gap with that delegation, and then they're just kind of in the last battle. So there's not there's some gaps around this. They go into the Black Tower after it's liberated by Pavara and Andral, right? And become part of that delegation, basically. But they're not really involved in it. They're just kind of sitting outside the walls for most of that.
So they're not part of the Taim being thrown out, taking people over, turning the eyes to die. They're not present for any of that.
No, because they're all like, Pavara's like the only one that survives that.
Right, yeah. So the rest of them are just camping outside the walls while their sisters get turned.
Right, because they're outside that like bubble, because there's the dome, right? The spike that prevents traveling in and out, and I think they're outside of that.
Yeah, the dream spikes into play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's such a wild Deus Ex Machina to just throw in at the end of the books. Oh, by the way, there's this thing that only exists in the dream world that completely changes the rules of traveling. It's like Brandon Sanderson was like, oh no, traveling's too powerful. I need something to nerf traveling.
Well, and you know what? To me, it does make sense that there would be a Terra Angreal that protects your home from someone traveling into it.
It does really fit the cosmology of the world.
Right.
Yes.
Like, I love the Dream Spike. It's weird that there's two of them. I would rather he just had done one of them. Right, the fact that he pulls two
or like a box
out,
of 12 or something.
Right. But whatever. I do like the concept of the Dream Spike. I will never complain about that. I like the way it was used. I like the way the way it allowed Teleron Riyadh to interact with the real world. Like, I think all of that is really well done. Like, it's one of the reasons why I think the second book is certainly better than this one overall. Right, there's good scenes in this one for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Dream Spike is coming into play in the Black Tower sometime in the near future or right around now. Yeah. Oh, but is that maybe why they're... Yeah. No, that is this. Because it's happened. Because they're like, what is it? Don't they say, like, with traveling, they should have been back by now?
Yeah.
They should have sent word?
Yep.
So the Dream Spike is in play.
Yep.
At this point. Because... there's nothing else that explains it. That is the silence is the Dream Spike. Oh, I had not quite put that together. Okay, cool. Yay. I'm glad
I don't think I had either until we started talking about it.
So that's interesting, too, that Egwene's supporters were sent away. Again, not by a Dark Friend or by a Black Aja plot, but just by people ostensibly on the light side just being ambitious and petty and short-sighted.
Shocking. Sabotaged by your own side.
That never happens.
The next thing I have is Sheriam wasn't lying about the Terra Angreal, the Dream Terra Angreal going missing.
Yes, I was feeling very gratified to read this because we were real confused about it a couple recordings ago.
I'm still a little confused as to why Sheriam lost to Pinky, right? Because she reported 19. There were 20 originally. There's 19 in storage because she knows or did we get confused about it again? They're all gone, whatever it is. And we think that Suan still has one of them. And that's the reason that Sheriam lost to Pinky. Because it was one less than was reported.
Fucked.
And just because they're all gone...
Well, they still would have the one that was with Swan.
But that's not what they're reporting, right? They're reporting they're all gone. Because nobody knows the one is with Swan.
Does that ever come up again?
I don't know. I think so.
Because that's how Swan and Egwene were meeting in the... So Egwene knows, because that's how they were meeting in the Dream Tower.
Right.
For her imprisonment. Because Swan didn't have normal access. Yeah, because she is tasked with taking 19 of them after the supposed loss of the one that Lyanna supposedly had that Swan actually had. So why'd she lose a pink?
She truthfully says there are 20, 18 for the Hall, one for her, and one for the other that Leanne had when she was captured. So I think that, and the 19 they say are missing, right? So that means she probably didn't get the one. It's just the one Leanne has. Because I think she still has that. Because I don't think that she knew it was passed on to Suan, so she couldn't get it from Leanne.
Right. So no one knows that one is... That's the thing is, like, why would Leanne have had it with her when she went to do the mission? Like, would you not leave the Turong Grial at home? I don't know.
No, I mean, it was just assumed that they searched her cabin and didn't find it, so it was assumed she had it on her. And then, yeah.
But again, like, she told the Forsaken that there were 19.
19 available. That's a good point.
Yeah.
So maybe it just took her fingers being like, yeah, well, I don't care if you can't get the one from Leanne if she's captured. Too bad. You should have figured out a way to get it. Yeah, that's the only thing I can think is just like that, malicious compliance about like get them all. I don't care if it's not possible. I don't care if you only got 19. I don't care if the other one's completely out of reach in the tower. You should have gotten them all.
That's the thing is, I remember Shuriam specifically thinks all 19 of them, question mark, exclamation point. Like 19 was the number. She should have been, like, I'm just so confused because I specifically remember the audiobook, the way that Kate Redding's voice goes, all 19 of them? I remember that very specifically. So I'm just, I'm so confused. This feels like doing a math problem, and it's stressing me out.
Your guess is as good as mine. Maybe she just got punished for being slow or something like that.
Sure. Somebody give us a short explanation. We'll read it into the episode.
Yeah, the idea that she like doesn't know how to cover it up. It's like, how could she cover this up? Like, she took them. It was recorded that she took them. Where would she explode? What would she do with them? It's like she wasn't thinking that far. She was just panicking and took them.
She didn't get to think that far. She was being burned as an asset by her handler. You know? Handler didn't care if that was the end of her ability to be a useful tool. She just wanted the tools.
Mm-hmm. Just like, I think at that point she would have had to flee if discovered. Exactly.
And Masana couldn't care less. Oh, yeah, so Ramonda then is like, so do you think that she was right about there being a Forsaken in the tower? And Egwene's like, yeah, probably. Very carefully not mentioning that she knows for a fact, based on Varen's reporting, that is super what's happening. Because she's like, I'm just going to keep those cards so close to the chest. So close.
And unfortunately, that does mislead her a little bit about who's killing people in the tower, right? Because she's like, oh, I'm looking for a Forsaken loose, and you've got these Shan assassins loose in the tower. You have the blood knives. So there's that little bit of misdirection that ends up sending her in the wrong direction, and lets a bunch of Aes Sedai die. Frankly, it's one of her bigger failures, in my opinion, that she like hyper focuses on the Forsaken, even though a lot of these murders are happening without any channeling.
Yeah, I don't even think it's that big of a failure on her part because she doesn't even know what's happening. She just fucks up.
Wheel of Time Wiki is saying she lost a finger because she didn't get the 20th one.
But she does, in the audiobook, she specifically squeaks about the number 19 as being what she's requested to get. So the Wheel of Time Wiki's wrong.
Well, just because I think she's wrong. She probably shows up with all 19 and she's like, well, where's the 20th one? She's like, I told you it's in the tower. I can't get it. He's like, too fucking bad. Give me that pinky.
That would be very, very dark friendly. It doesn't seem like Masana per se, but it does seem very dark friendly in general. So maybe she was having a bad day.
I've been convinced that actually, if you had to lose a finger, you shouldn't lose your pinky. You should lose your pointer finger. You had to choose because of the way grips work, right? Like,
you know, I actually see what you mean. The pointer's kind of the most redundant of all.
And everything you can do with your pointer, you can do with your middle finger.
Right. Yeah. That's disquieting.
But the pinky actually is a large contributor to your grip strength.
Yeah, the ring finger really barely pulls its weight at all. Like, truly.
And the pointer just doesn't do anything to do with that, almost barely affects your grip strength at all.
When it comes to grip. Yeah, no, you're totally right. No, we can't lose the middle finger, Nentuck. Then how are you going to tell people how you feel?
That's right. I mean, that's like half my vocabulary right there. Let's see. So yeah, we got Forsaken in the tower. Gawain following. Egwene wasn't certain what to do with him yet. You never will be. Like, just
dump him, girl.
Dump him, right? Like, Jesus. I know he's gonna save your life a couple of times, fine, but he's also gonna end it. Don't bond him as a warder. It's just like he should be another soldier. He should be another guard, right? Like,
yeah. So she's being very cautious about what Elida might do because she doesn't want to get captured like a dumbass again, you know, which fair. You know, she doesn't know what's happened to Elida. It makes sense to use a double dose of caution, given how it went last time you made assumptions about what Elida could and couldn't do to you.
Because they're riding to war, basically, right? This is the end of the siege. There's no more point in, Bryn makes this point later, there's no more point in continuing the siege if they've got gateways, because you're not blocking anything.
Yeah, exactly. She has this vanishingly small window, and she's going to do it, but she's going to do it safely and not get killed and her moment of victory. I approve of that.
Then there's an interaction here between her and Suan where she's basically like, oh, yeah, I see you took a order again, but you're still in the doghouse.
Yeah, basically. Like, congratulations on getting a warder, but also, like, we have a relationship to repair, and it's not going to be done today.
So then they get to the walls after that conversation with Suan, which goes on for a while. And they notice that just, like, the forces on the walls are just not really there.
There's perhaps 1,000 sleep-deprived, beleaguered soldiers in total versus Bryn's well-rested 10,000. And Bryn's like, this feels off. This doesn't feel like the battle we were setting up for. We're missing something. And Egwene agrees.
And I think they're missing that there's no leader. Like, the Lida has been captured, so there's no leadership inside the tower. So there's no one to get the troops up and on the walls.
Well, and the leadership is in the act of deciding that they want to essentially surrender.
Right.
So
right.
even if they're, like, what leadership there is all pointed at the stand down option. So, like, the soldiers are out there because their squad leader says, I guess we continue to defend our section of wall?
Right, exactly. Right.
While the Aes Sedai dicker inside about, like, exactly, like, what letterhead they want to put on the invitation or whatever. I get so annoyed with the Tower Aes Sedai for how long it takes them to, like, come down and deal with these terrified soldiers who are looking at certain death and just, they take their sweet time.
Remember the debate we saw with them in the last couple chapters, right? That, I think, is happening at this time. I think we've got overlapping time where, like, this hour where she's waiting is when that debate is happening.
Yeah, more or less. And I'm just like, get it together, women. Egwene is holding back on the strength of a sheer reluctance to be the Amerlin who attacked. That is narrow margins.
So, yeah, Bryn says, basically I've got an hour before, like, we're going to be fighting, before it starts to get dark, and then fighting doesn't make sense in the dark, right? And then we'll have to wait for tomorrow, and then that sort of, like, defeats the surprise because everyone's going to be rested and everything, right? And she waits the hour and debates, and then waits a little bit more. And just as she's about to, in typical movie style.
It's too movie perfect.
Yeah, movie perfect.
Too close to a movie perfect moment. I'm sorry. This is a book. Stop it. Oh, wow. We've got some quotes in the chat. Thank you. I have to scroll up to see who this is because, wow. Athlon, of course, it's Athlon. Okay. We had 20, but one was with the woman Leanne who was captured. That leaves us with 19.
So it does seem to be that Sheriam is misinterpreting what Masana is saying, right? Because Masana says, give me all of them. You lose a finger or toe for each one you don't capture. And then she goes, all 19? And it's like, is that, I think Masana meant all 20.
Oh, shit. I think you're right. I think she totally rules lawyered herself into a little sadistic treat at the end of a long day. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. I never noticed that, but that is absolutely what happened. That is absolutely what happened. That isn't even headcanon. That is ironclad evidence on the page. Wow. Thank you, Athlon. And Seth, because hell of a take. But no, Masada totally would rules lawyer her way into just doing a little cold torture.
Yeah, here's the 19 you asked for. No, I said all of them. But all of them is 19. No, you said there was one in the tower. That counts. No, chop. Yeah.
That is so. Oh my God, Masana would rules lawyer her way into a little pinky removal. Like I just don't see her as going out of her way. But if it's a rules lawyering moment, Masana definitely would go out of her way. Like, for sure. I know, because Masana's my favorite Forsaken, and I like being a rules lawyer.
That is the type of Forsaken she is. Yeah, that's totally, you're right. Yeah.
And so, yeah, the Aes Sedai come out and say, Egwene Alvir, we would like to surrender, please, and thank you. And Egwene goes, for real, though? What about Elida? And they're like, Shan. It's amazing how much information they just boom across the river at each other.
There's yelling at each other, right? Yeah, this is basically catching up on the two plot lines we've been reading the whole time, which is what's going on your side. Yeah, and we've got the 10 sitters, 2 from each Aja, except for the blue and the red. The blue because they don't exist, the red because that would be insulting, and they're in disgrace right now.
Right.
2 because there's a bunch of people missing and captured.
Yeah, they have a real lack of people to pick from at this point.
Not to mention a bunch that have fled, which we'll find out about in the next chapter. Because they heard about the purge happening out in the camps.
Yeah, basically. And so then Egwene demands a couple of things: that you'll let the army enter and that you'll reinstate the blue and not be dicks about it. To which Endiah says, "We definitely figured you would ask that, and yes, super cool.
Of course.
No debate." Like unconditional surrender, basically.
I would like to revoke all of the Mad Woman's policies. Sure, no problem.
Yeah, I would like to Control Z this entire block of bullshit. Yes, way ahead of you, already done. Good to go.
And then there's a whole lot of sort of symbolism starting here and going on to the next chapter about how the tower stands, but it's bleeding and wounded, but it's healing, and just it all kind of represents the holes in it from the Black Ajah. But it's like you got these new tower novices, this new group of novices coming in who are gonna fill the halls again. Like it's there's a lot of symbolism going into this next chapter.
Yeah, and I think we can just roll right into chapter 46, To Be Forged Again, because it's literally just jump cut 10 minutes, and Egwene is now in the green room for the Hall of the Tower. Basically. The Amerlin's green room.
And after crossing the bridge to Tarvalin, right? Like, they invited her in, she crossed, now she's in.
And in this chapter, she thinks about, or she extorts the Aes Sedai to realize that, blacksmiths talk about how you need to reforge a sword from scraps. And I'm like, so why is that so hard to swallow when Rand suggests it?
With God, the
like,
seals.
You literally made this argument. Like, I mean, the part where Perrin has to walk her through her own analogy from a week prior is just like, what?
That interaction is frustrating for me. It's like she goes through all this trouble to like reunite the tower, and you're like, oh, finally it's reunited behind Egwene and the Dragon Reborn, and then she just kind of is a dick to him, and it's like, it's one of the reasons I think a lot of people do tend to not like Egwene. Is this just like, but you were supposed to be there, like the way that Nynaeve is there for Rand in the last battle, it feels like Egwene isn't, and like she's there in the battle itself, but leading up to it, she's just this opposition, and he uses her, and she gathers all his opposition, and then he changes her. Like, there's a whole thing to it. I get why he wrote it the way he did, but it makes her appear very unlikable and unreasonable for an unreasonable amount of time.
Well, and especially because it doesn't feel in character with like what she's doing here.
Right, exactly.
Right? It's not like she's always been like that. Like she suddenly becomes way less reasonable than she was. Like really suddenly. Like this Egwene feels like she should be gonna get around to hanging out with Rand and being cool. And then when that actually happens, a very different result comes out, and it feels very odd and upsetting. Mm-hmm. But that will not happen quite yet.
So I really do think this is peak Egwene for me. Like he really nailed Egwene here.
Yes. No, I agree. There are some speech sections in this chapter that do need to be read in full, because it really is. This is as peak Egwene as her blasting Rockin' out of the sky with Vora's song Grial. It's the same level of just, this is what we wanted. This is glorious. All hail.
So she talks a little bit about how, like, yeah, she's got to redo the ceremony, but the ceremony's not that important. Like, getting it right isn't super important. The decisions have been made, but the symbolism of redoing the ceremony is important, right? So that both sides get a chance to raise her up as Amyrlin.
Right. It's not for her. It's for the other Aes Sedai, right? She's been only raised by half of them, and that's not fair. So, but yeah, she's not worried about getting the steps wrong. I love the fact that she's being instructed by a librarian, Brown, who literally could give a rat's ass about all of the drama and turmoil. Like, she's a loyalist because she doesn't come out of her office except when there's a new Amyrlin to raise, and so she didn't leave with the rebellion. But she was never loyal to Elaida. She was loyal to being an archivist.
She's loyal to the books, which didn't move, so that's why she's there.
Yeah, I just love, like, she is quintessential Brown, right? Completely lost in the books and her own world, and just truly doesn't care about anything outside of this one job she has.
And as far as I can tell, this is a singular mention of her as well in the series.
Single serving Aes Sedai, if ever there was one.
Yeah, single serving Aes Sedai. Yeah. So, and then the next part is, I think, a little hard to swallow, but really necessary, right? That, like, the rebels have to apologize for rebelling. And it's like, you might have had a good reason for doing it, but it was still a crime. And so, and I feel like that happens a lot. I don't know if that happens in political, in courtrooms very much, but it feels like it should, right? This idea that, like, yeah, you killed the person in self-defense, but you still killed them. And you might want to apologize for that.
No. That's
Maybe.
a bad example.
Yeah, that's a bad example. I'm trying. Yeah, you're right. I paused too long on that. I'm trying to come up with a good one.
No, I feel what you mean, because it feels like, no, that rebellion had to happen, but also in order for the institution to properly heal, you have to acknowledge the illegality of what, I don't know. I'm enough of an abolitionist and an anarchist that I find the whole let's venerate the institution above all else thing just a little distasteful, which makes it hard for me to fully inhabit the logic here. But I think it matters more because this is institutional. This isn't an individual person-on-person conflict. This is an institution splitting down the middle and then needing to come back together. And they're all operating in their positions, essentially, in this institution rather than as, like, people. So I can kind of accept it for that. But I don't know, man. Elida really, like, it helps that she dresses the hall down later. You know, she really scolds both sides and tells them both that they were a problem. And, like, you know, again, one side was empirically the real problem and the other side simply made complicated choices to respond. So I don't know that it's fair to call both sides equally culpable. But at the same time, doing that is what allows both sides to set the whole thing in the past. And, like, is it a necessary fiction that we need in order to actually do the future? Maybe it's worth it. I don't know. Little white lies to help an institution get unhooked from the past seem acceptable, I guess, on the morality scale.
Maybe a better example is if you have, like, two little kids fighting and you make them apologize to each other. And it's like, you know, one of them probably started it, but, like, it doesn't matter. Like, they're little kids who are fighting and overwhelmed and are emotionally just can't control themselves and so need to apologize in order to move on and play again together. And I think comparing the Aes Sedai to little children is more appropriate. Yeah. It's silly because institutions should have more maturity than developing brains. But the Aes Sedai have empirically proven that is not always the truth, even though you would think it should be. It isn't. Nen talk. Only if they meant it. Only if they actually meant it.
The thing with, I mean, to get to a more real example, the thing with de-radicalizing someone is it has to be their choice and you have to be willing to let them come back. Like, no one has ever de-radicalized because you were a meanie pants to them. The only people who have ever de-radicalized themselves are people who felt that they could start talking to you, start talking to someone, and, like, start to work their way out. Like, you can't de-radicalize someone by saying you are beyond repair and you are beyond reach. Like, they will not de-radicalize from whatever their stance is. But
fine, I guess I wasn't a good mother anyway.
But you also need real repair, which involves, like, restitution and changed behavior and, you know, not
meaningful
continuing
apologies,
to be you need to change your behavior, like true change behavior, which, like, in Egwene's case, you know, the behavior in question was Elida being terrible and the rebellion against her. So if we can all agree that we're not going to continue those behaviors, which is an easy sell in this case, then, you know, it's possible to do the other parts of apology. But, like, yeah, people need to actually stop doing the thing that caused the need for the apology in order for the words to mean anything.
Well, and, you know, if technically the overthrow of the Amyrlin was legal, right? So the letter of the law, they followed the letter of the law. Despite all the flaws in that pointed out by Egwene, it was the letter of the law. So the rebellions were technically breaking the tower law when they rebelled.
Right, and carrying that caveat forward as a cause for grievance is a recipe for disaster. So better to just be like, apologize for breaking the law for good reasons anyway. Moving on.
So that I can pardon you, right? And that no one can ever come at you. It's like this literally like the apology is almost there so that you can say, see, they apologized, I'm pardoning them, no one can really talk about it anymore. No one can bring it up anymore, right? So it's almost a way of like just acknowledging that to get it out of the way and legally get it out of the way as well.
Yeah, she's taking all the air out of those sails, just completely puncturing those balloons. Like, no.
Because you can see how like prosecuting one half of the tower over this schism.
That's a permanent rift.
Right.
That's a permanent othering. She has to get people to stop othering each other after they have been very violently othering each other. It's a hard ask. And yeah, for both sides to feel put upon. I mean, as Matt often tells us, right, the best deal between horse traders is where both people think that they got the better deal, where both people think that they had to compromise, right? You want both parties to feel more or less the same emotionally walking away. Whatever you have to do to get there, that's how it's a good deal.
There's a Gawain section. He wants to come with her. They go, oh, is this your order? She goes, nope, and walks away.
Yeah, I'm like, could this not be the last time we see him?
It was basically, he's like, you can't come. Wait here. Okay, bye. Like,
yeah, which is Warder things, right? She's got to go do Hall of the Tower stuff. Warders don't get to come in. And then, yeah, she thinks briefly about how in her accepted testing, she actually experienced this moment of standing at these doors and going in, which is a nice callback to book 2.
I also like that she exchanges her boots for slippers. There's this like moment of like, she's no longer external to the tower. She's inside the tower again. So she has slippers on.
Oh, she goes from her outdoor shoes to her indoor shoes. I didn't even think about that. Wow. So symbolic. So appropriate.
Because she's inhabiting the tower again. Yeah.
And also now she can't be out gallivanting, having adventures in her working boots. Now she needs to wear the soft, delicate indoor boots of a powerful woman.
So I'm laughing at Nentox. Ew, I stepped in a Gawain chapter. Didn't even know it was there. I thought it was an Egwene chapter.
It's just a little.
Just a little. Bit. It's just you just get a whiff. You're like, did I? You're like, oh yeah, I did a little bit. Hold on, let me scrape. Let me get that Gawain off of me.
And then she goes into the hall and sees the most symbolically fortuitous piece of damage that the tower took during the Shan attack. There's this blasted out hole in the wall that just perfectly missed the Amerlin seat and frames Dragon Mount. It's really cinematic, and I'm not even mad about it because it looks really cool in my mind's eye.
It does look really cool.
And then she puts a rose window in it later because she's like, yeah, that looks really cool. Let's do that.
And so they've painted the throne to have all 7 colors, but they haven't replaced the 3 blue Aja seats. So there's not 21 seats. There's only 18.
I think the floor is still 6 spiraled. They only did the throne or something like, or they got the stole has 7 colors because that was not destroyed. It still existed somewhere.
Yeah, someone just tucked it away and went for like, yeah, right. We'll eventually have the blue Aja back.
Right. Yeah, totally. So the room is definitely still a working construction zone on a lot of levels.
Well, it's been 24 hours and a lot of people were wounded and exhausted and like, yeah.
Yeah. There's still just a blasted open hole throwing wind into the room, right? They're doing this whole thing with like essentially in an indoor-outdoor combo situation.
And so what you've got is a list of sitters who are sitting on the throne there, like of those, or not sitters. Yeah, these are sitters, right? Sitters.
Yeah, the 11 sitters. There should be 21 under ordinary circumstances. There are 11 possible. It's a wild bit of damage and chaos that they're going through right now.
So you've got Saren, Doacine, Yakiri, Suwana, and then the other 6, according to just the wiki, is Julianne, Shevan, Andanya, Rena, Rubindi, and Farine.
I recognize all those names, I think. Probably.
So that's the list of the 11 sitters who are still there to have the vote. I didn't really look into a lot of them at this point, but a lot of these names are very familiar. I mean, Serene and Doacine.
We've got the Black
Yukiri,
Aja Hunters.
Yeah, the Black Aja Hunters is a good group there. Yeah, because a lot of those were part of that group.
Yeah, and I think some of the other ones are also their Aja head.
Sure, possibly.
But yeah, we've seen all of them. They're not single-serving Aes Sedai.
No. These are all ones that have popped up multiple times. And same thing with the Black sisters who have fled, right? You've got Talene, who fled weeks ago, Van Ellen, Velina, Sidor, and Duhara. These are all actually pretty significant Aes Sedai in the books, who have then been declared who are now determined to be Black Aja and have fled for various reasons.
Right, and then there's a couple of other Aes Sedai who are missing, and because of the timing, Egwene is wondering if they're Black Aja, and, in the case of Pavara, we know she's not.
No, yeah.
Because, a whole bunch of Reds went on that secret mission. They weren't all Black Aja, but the timing makes it confusing.
Javindra and Parvara were not. They disappeared before it was, but Duhara is, Eveline is... Egwene kills Eveline in Teleron Riyadh in Towers of Midnight.
Yeah.
Let's see. I don't have where Talene ends up, but Duhara tries to woo Elaine, right? She's over, and that's where she is.
Yeah,
that's her.
Yeah, she's in Andor.
So, and then Velina and Sidor were just on the list, and I think they might be... She flinches when Alviaran enters a room earlier, so there's a Velina. You're like, ooh, we got a little clue there. And Sidor, let's see. Egwene kills her in Teleron Riyadh.
Oh.
So yeah, this is just some black sisters that we get that either end up in battle or kind of become part of the last battle. So I'm glad he did that. I'm glad he let some of them escape to become the Dreadlords in the last battle.
Yeah, that was satisfying for sure. You want to see that, no, they got away, that's going to be a problem. Oh no, it was in fact a problem.
Yeah.
You want that.
And can imagine what would have happened if she hadn't stopped 50 of them, right? That's a huge force of channelers, right? Especially considering how few Aes Sedai there actually are left.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's another 150 out there somewhere, because there was a bunch that escaped from the tower and a bunch that were just on the loose already. So there's a good amount in the last battle for sure. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's 100.
I don't know.
So yeah, 11. Let's see. So Egwene before the ceremony is have Sylviana brought in here, right? Because she wants to raise her as keeper, and everyone else is oh, she's gonna punish her. But it's no, she's gonna raise her up as keeper because she's probably all the good reasons. I think it's one of the better choices she makes, honestly, in trying to reunite the tower.
No, this goes a long way in terms of healing the deep, fundamental subconscious rifts that have been sprung up in the tower. To choose a Red loyalist as keeper is there's not a bigger compromise you can make as the former rebel leader who was raised by a collection of blues. There's just no deeper way to say that's in the past now.
So the ceremony happens. I don't have a lot of notes on that, other than they're all a little scared of her, so they all stand right away.
Yeah, the ones who pledge for her at the beginning, they stand right away. It's just, it all goes very smoothly and quickly. Egwene thinks about how she's going to have to be firm with them, firm leadership, a firm hand. And I'm just man, she's got some backbone. She is so young, looking at this room full of some of the most powerful women in the world being these girls need to get settled down.
Right. They've been acting like children.
Peak Egwene. Just peak Egwene, that she looks at them and goes, yeah, I can take them.
So they raise her to the Emerald seat.
No fuss, no muss.
No, right.
Nobody tries to make her do the foot washing, asking to serve thing. They need her. Right. And she thinks about it, too. She looks under the ceremony and sees that they're all scared, not of her, but of the world. And they desperately want an Amerlin. And that is what actually helps them sleep at night, is knowing there's an Amerlin. So, there's a lot of reasons to stand up. She might kill you or the world might kill you. She's the only thing standing between the world and you. So.
And so then Sylviana shows up. And Yukiri's Mother, is this really the best time to be dispensing justice? And I think what follows is one of the best speech slap downs that is so relevant to what's going on to me in the United States right now.
Yes, it is.
I really want to read it, or I want you to read it. I don't know. Are you up for reading the whole thing?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, after she, lets Yukiri be like, oh, do you want this burden? And Egwene's like, I have been doing this burden. Give it to me. Just give me the damn burden. And then, she gives them this speech. You all bear a great deal of shame, she said. Stiff-faced Aes Sedai raised eyebrows and opened eyes wider. They seemed angry. They had no right. Their anger was nothing beside hers. This, Egwene said, gesturing toward the broken wall. You bear responsibility for this, she pointed at Sylviana, still kneeling. You bear responsibility for this. You bear responsibility for the way our sisters regard one another in the halls, and you bear responsibility for letting the tower remain so long in division. Many of you bear responsibility for that division in the first place. You are a disgrace. The White Tower, the pride of the light, the power for stability and truth since the age of legends, has nearly been shattered because of you. Eyes bugged out, and a few women choked in shock. Elida, one began. Elida was a mad woman, and you all know it, Egwene said sternly, standing tall, staring them down. You knew it these last few months as she worked unwittingly to destroy us. Light, many of you probably knew it when you raised her in the first place. There have been foolish Amerlins before, but none have come as close to tearing down the entire tower. You are a check upon the Amerlin. You are to keep her from doing things like this. You allowed her to disband an entire Aja. What were you thinking? How is it that you allowed the tower to fall so far, and when the Dragon Reborn himself walks the land no less? You should have removed Elida the moment you heard of her disastrous attempt to confine Rand al'Thor. You should have removed her when you saw how her bickering and pettiness was turning Ajas against one another. And you should certainly have removed her when she refused to do what was needed to bring the tower together again, whole as one. Egwene looked down the lines of sisters, staring at each one in turn, meeting each set of eyes until they looked away. None dared hold her gaze for long. Finally, she saw shame begin to peek through their masks. As well it should. None of you would stand up to her, Egwene spat. You dare call yourself the Hall of the Tower? You who were cowed? You who were too frightened to do what was needed? You who were too caught up in your own squabbles and politicking to see what was needed? Egwene looked down at Sylviana. Only one woman in this room was willing to stand up for what she knew to be right. Only one woman dared defy Elida, and she accepted the price of doing so. And you think I brought this woman here to exact vengeance on her? Are you really so blinded that you think I'd punish the only person in the entire tower who did anything of decency these last few months? They were all looking down now. Even Saren wouldn't meet her eyes. Sylviana looked up at her. You did your duty, Sylviana, Egwene said. And you did it well. Rise. Just throw that woman a fucking bouquet.
Right?
Fuck!
Right? Oh, man. No, I want to, yell that at Congress and just replace all the names.
Yes, exactly. You should have seen. We've had foolish presidents before. We should be dealing with so many things. We're the United fucking States. We're supposed to be a shining city on a hill. We've never had a president who's trying to just name political assassinations and tell terrorists to stand back and stand on and on. Every single thing she says, swap a couple of names and everything else watertight.
And that was well done. I like the outrage was good.
Mm. Kate Redding set me up well, and my anger at the current moment fueled the fire. Kate Redding, she talks about this in various con discussions about her experience of delivering lines, and she talks about how anger, righteous anger, is the emotion that she really loves doing the most and gets the most personal satisfaction and emotion out of as a narrator, and it comes through when she reads this part.
Righteous anger and pure insanity are my two favorite parts to read.
Yeah Yeah, totally. Being absolutely evil and absolutely righteous. The two most appealing roles to inhabit.
They're pure. They ring like a bell. You know that emotion. You know that feeling when you're in the right about something or when you just want something to die. You know, like there's that anger and then there's that purity, right? That's like it doesn't come from almost any other emotion.
Yeah, it's like a perfect third. It just rings really.
Anyway, that is the great, between that and her throwing fireballs from the tower, like this book is peak Egwene, right? This book is why we love Egwene. This is like the stuff she does in this book is awesome. She reunites the tower. She slaps those Aes Sedai into order. She's, puts them in their place and really brings the united White Tower to the last battle.
Yeah. She takes some of the most powerful, disorganized people and organizes them.
She herds cats.
She herds cats so effectively. And she manages to, make everyone happy in the bargain, right? She's really encompassing all the Ajas, right? Like, her gray is showing with the way that she is scolding and reprimanding. And then, she turns to uplifting after naming Sylviana, right? Like, she takes the Hall on a whole-ass hero's journey in this session. And yeah, Sylviana accepts the offer of Keeper with reserve and calmness and respect. And, she's perfect for it. She really is a good choice.
A little discussion about what the Red Aja is going to be in the future. Well, Sylviana's like, there will always be rogue channelers and men who cannot be trusted. And Egwene's like, well, there hopefully won't always be men who can't be trusted. Like, that's not what we're going for here in the future.
But, maybe not today. Maybe next week we'll figure that out.
Maybe after the last battle. Good luck with that, Egwene.
Well, yeah. But, it makes sense, right? There's what the Red Aja's purpose on paper is, and there's what their subconscious programming is. And, the latter will be a slower process to rework. It's just how humans are. The important thing is, beginning the process of accepting that male channelers are not automatically your job.
Mm-hmm. But you can see how maybe they need to work with the Aiel to be part of the police force to take down rogue channelers.
I would love to see an Aiel Red Aja. That was one thing I loved about the show's world building was that the Red Aja is just the enforcers. Because it really, with the rate at which channeling shows up in the population for female channelers, I don't think you need the Red Aja to be dedicated only to male channelers. I feel like they're going to have a lot of extra time on their hands. It makes sense for them to be enforcers of more than just male channeling, enforcers of lots of stuff. So yeah, seeing them partner up with the Aiel would be devastatingly effective.
And then so I like how this is an issue where she talks about how we're gonna have to give up certain positions, right? Because we have a merger of two towers basically, and we have too many keepers or too many sitters and too many Aja heads. And Sylviana's like, do you have too many keepers? And she's like, no, I executed my last one for being a dark friend, so we're in the clear there.
That
Yeah,
casual.
that casual.
No, the other one was Black Aja, actually, turns out.
No, I took her head off. Yeah, so we're good. So I was like, okay, so had a busy day since I last saw you and beat you?
Mm-hmm, right.
Which is that's got to be crazy. This girl who I beat every day just casually told me she slaughtered the last person who was in my position. I hope, think about that for a second.
Right. It's like that moment you were describing earlier when someone goes from stranger to friend just because you realize what their screen name is and they're no longer a random person. It's that sort of thing. You were a child. Oh, you're a okay. Oh, okay.
You're very dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one more piece of Egwene's speech that I want to read as we get to this page.
Okay.
And I am not guiltless either. I share some of your shame, for it was during my tenure that these disasters occurred. I sided with the rebels, allowed myself to be raised by them because it was the only choice. But that choice still gives me culpability. Bear your shame, sitters, but bear it with determination. Do not let it break you. The time for healing has begun, and there is no longer any use in pointing fingers. You failed, but you are all that we have. We are all that the world has. I like that she, the hope at the bottom of Pandora's box, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you fucked up. Admit it and move on because you're still alive, which means you can do better. which is, again, something that a lot of hand-wringing people in the real world need to come to grips with. Like, it's not over till you're dead, guys. We need to stop pointing fingers and think about what we're actually going to do. So I like that she says that. Oh, and then we mentioned that maybe the Turon Grial room should be secret and secure and moved.
Yeah.
From where it currently is. Maybe
away from someone with gateways. Yeah.
Finally.
Never thought about that with Forsaken, but why Forsaken didn't rate it first, we don't know.
That we don't know, but we'll try now.
It's like, why didn't Messana gateway down to that room the second she learned about it and start distributing, like using the distribution of the Terran Grial and the Angreal among the Forsaken to get herself to a position of power and trade them for favors and stuff like that.
Hella
right?
bargaining chips.
Yeah. I still think it's one of the bigger plot holes.
But it's being plugged now. However late, it is still being plugged now.
Yeah, a little too late.
It is. It is way too late.
They talk about getting a new Mistress of the Novices, because now that Sylviana's been elevated. Who ends up being Mistress of the Novices? I don't remember.
I don't remember. I have no idea who the Mistress of the Novices becomes.
Well, gee, what happened to Aradiapedia? Come on.
We're in the last 3 books. My powers have waned. Oh, is it Rosil from Saladar, from the Rebel Camp? Because the Rebel Camp has a Mistress of Novices who's very young and overwhelmed by the job. Which I don't know why Egwene is just like, well, I need a new one. I guess because she just figures that Rosil is not up to the task. I don't know. That seems kind of rude.
It does seem a little rude.
Because Rosil doesn't get killed like Shiriam. So...
I mean, if she's overwhelmed, maybe she's like, yeah, we definitely need a new one.
I mean, honestly, I feel like we need one Mistress of Novices with like 3 deputy Mistress of Novices under her for the hundreds. I don't think any one woman can handle hundreds of them. No, it's not Sharina. Sharina is taking on a lot of the responsibilities just because no one else is competent, but she's not even Aes Sedai, so she can't be the Mistress of Novices.
Did you hear that?
Is the dog snoring?
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally heard that.
He's chasing something in his sleep and growling at it and like snorting. He's got his head on my foot and he's totally asleep.
What a good boy.
Harvey's turned into a real snuggle bug.
Oh, it's Tiana in Saladar. Rosil replaces her when the towers reunited. Mentioned in Towers of Midnight. Oh, I'm glad you only know because it's your favorite books. I'm so weak in these last 3 books. I literally have been trying to re-listen to them over the past couple of years, and every time I start, I just wander away and listen to something else. Like, I have had the hardest time studying these books for podcast purposes, like outside of just notes for recordings.
So let's see. I'm going to read the notes from the Watt fandom. Okay. It is unclear why Egwene decided to change the Mistress of Novices. The previous title holder in the White Tower, Katarine, was Black Ajah, while her predecessor, Sylviana, became Egwene's new Keeper of the Chronicles. This does not fully explain why Tiana did not resume the post within the tower that she did with the rebels. The reason is likely political. A change in roles represents the fresh start Egwene wants for the tower and also fits with her decision to treat the rebel Aes Sedai faction as rebels by making them apologize for the part. Rosil may or may not continue as mistress under the new Amyrlin, Codswain.
Huh. Okay, so I'm going to go with plot hole.
I mean, they just leave it with Rosil.
No, the Tiana to Rosil transition.
Yeah.
That just feels like it's fine.
Oh, because Tiana was right. They were... Oh, okay, wow. Yeah, that's weird. It doesn't... There's no reason why...
I do know that Romaine and some others were talking about how Tiana was really young and not super up to the task, so maybe she's just quiet fired.
Yeah, no, Athlon, you're spot on. Tiana was the one in Saladar, and Rosil replaced her when the tower reunited. She's mentioned in Tower of Midnights. No reason given, yeah.
I truly think they need more than one Mistress of Novices to deal with the massive escalation of novices. No one person can be in charge of hundreds to that degree. There's not enough hours in the day. There's not enough brain cells.
Well, their teaching methods are weird because it's like die and accepted when they can, because accepted don't have to really teach, right?
Yeah, it's got to be a whole new thing. You're going to need a small army of competent women to make sense of that. And yeah, I do think that Sharina will need to be given some input space no matter what her rank is, because you need Sharina to organize this.
Yep.
I mean, honestly, Sharina's probably going to test for Eyes to Die like day one of them getting the arches fired back up. So they go out to do the formal reunification and apology process. That's where I go next, is going outside to address the rebels who have now been lined up. And she tells them, I've now been raised properly and legally by both sides, so we can come back together.
Mistakes have been made on both sides. Okay, whatever. Rolling my eyes at that statement.
It's a necessary fiction.
It's a necessary fiction. It's really like the tower fucked up and these people had to rebel, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's, again, this thing that she says here that's just so relevant to people that want to throw in the towel on permanent division. I will not pretend that our division did not take place. We of the White Tower are sometimes too eager to forget those facts we don't want to acknowledge. It just, maybe like, yes, we have to put it in the past, but not like forget about how we got there. We do need to learn from that.
And here's where she uses the whole broken reforging sword analogy that pissed you off, because it's like she says it right here and then doesn't get it with the Rand and Seals thing.
Yeah, like Perrin has to explain it to her when she already explained it to the entire tower.
We have been broken, then torn nearly down to the roots. I mean to see that we are once again a sword forged with strength, whole and unbroken.
So why is it so offensive to you when Rand suggests doing the same thing with metaphysics? But yeah, then she gives them the real rile up and gets them all cheering and excited. And that goes right through the readout. These days will test you. I will force you to work with those you saw as enemies just hours ago. You will march alongside those who spurned you or hurt you or hated you. But we are stronger than our weaknesses. The White Tower stands, and we shall stand with it. We will become one again. We will be an assembly that tales will tell of. When I am finished with you, it will not be written that the White Tower was weak. Our divisions will be forgotten in the face of our victories. We will be remembered not as the White Tower who turned against itself, but as the White Tower who stood strong in the face of the shadow. These days will be legendary. Cheers burst out, mostly from novices and soldiers, as the Eyes to Die were too reserved for that sort of behavior. Generally. Some younger ones did call out, caught up in the moment. Thankfully, those cheers came from both sides. Egwene let them roar for a moment, then raised her arms, quieting them. Let it go forth across the land, she shouted. Let it be spoken of, let it be relied upon, and let it be remembered. The White Tower is whole and complete, and no one, man, woman, or creation of the shadow, will see us divided again. The cheers were nearly deafening this time, and surprisingly, more Eyes to Die joined in. Egwene lowered her hands. She hoped they would still cheer her in the months to come. There was a great deal of work to be done. She riles them up while also admitting to herself that, it's a little more complicated than that, but this is a necessary moment.
And that's where the title of this chapter comes from, To Be Forged Again. She's forging that tower back together, right? And just those pieces that she talks about.
It's triumphant, masterful, peak Egwene.
And it's kind of the end of a big plot line, right? This is ever since the tower split, ever since that night when Suan was taken and stilled and her order was killed and the tower split and everybody separated, and like that has been such a huge plot line for such a long time. And now that is done, and it had to happen so that Egwene could reunite it and become Amyrlin, right? Because no way she can become Amyrlin without the split.
Absolutely not.
And so now we're back around to the point where she has taken power and she can be the yin to Rand's yang and be in charge of the White Tower as a Two Rivers person who will support him. How that's implemented, we can debate that. But like, I really do think that's the whole point, right? Is like you have the Two Rivers folks becoming the powers upon which the world balances. You know, you have Matt, who's kind of, in a lot of ways, not in charge of, but at least has access to the Shan Shan power base. You have Rand with his armies and countries. You have Egwene, who rules over the White Tower. Nynaeve, who has access to all the borderland armies.
And Perrin's grab bag army.
And Perrin's grab bag of all the other armies. He's like, oh, yeah, all
Everyone
y'all,
else.
come on. Everyone else, get in the bag. Come on.
Yeah. He's the others.
Yeah,
You go
he
through
really
all your
does.
checkboxes, then there's just other. That's Perrin's army.
Because, like, yeah, he really does reunite. Like, Matt might be the general, but Perrin is the one who brings them all together. And again, I would like to see more of that sort of bringing together the various armies beneath Perrin. I think him sort of in Egwene's role would have been pretty cool. Or sorry, Elaine's role. Like more of like the leader at that point. And sort of doing the moving of them around but and then I think you could have made an excuse for it of like, oh, this is a friend of mine, he doesn't have any loyalty, he's not part of any nation, right? Will you follow him? And then you have all the various peoples he's picked up that can vouch for him. And be like, I would follow, and be like, well, if that guy will follow him, I'll follow him, right? And so you have all these armies.
Well, just like with Egwene, right? Collecting all the different Aja loyalties, and then in both camps, and then everyone's like, oh, I guess we all agree on that person, even though we hate each other.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, someone could challenge Perrin, he could do the thing where he teleports behind them and says, I'm behind you now, cuts their throat, and says, anyone else want to challenge me? You know,
right.
One of those things.
Yeah. But yeah, this was a triumphant ringing end to
Definitely.
Egwene's entire climb to power and the Tower division. I mean, what a moment of triumph for Swan, you know? Like,
right.
She got her warder killed and got yeeted out of the tower, and she came back with Egwene. You know?
There's that moment when Egwene has that thought where she's like, oh, and if I forget what the if was, but she's like, oh, if I hadn't returned, basically Elida would still be in charge. I was like, no, she wouldn't have. Elida still would have gotten nabbed. Like, somebody else would have been in charge. But it is kind of funny that Egwene's return had almost nothing to do with Elida losing power. She was just in the right place at the right time to take that power once Elida had been absconded with.
Yeah, I mean, I do think Elida was not long for the seat, regardless of what happened to her in the Shan Shan attack.
Yeah. No one wants her back for sure.
Yeah, like Egwene's spade work on that front. Like I think Elida was gonna get cooed at some point in the next few days if Egwene didn't just forcibly take the tower. It
undermines any opposition that she would have had, because it's like, well, who are you going to support?
Yes.
Like, it's like there's a group that supports Egwene and a group that doesn't support anybody because the light is gone.
Right. Yeah. It makes it easy, which is fine, because we've spent the better part of this series having it be hard. So, a little bit of sliding in to home base at the end for Flair it's fine. We'll allow it.
And that's what we're doing. We're wrapping this book, and then especially next book is like, let's get our ducks in a row, because the last book is a full-on battle. So this is the first big duck that is in a row and ready and pointed at the last battle.
Yeah, for sure. We've got a duck. Now let's get the other ducks lined up behind it, and then it will be a row.
Then they can turn into cats and, Lopar or whatever the Shan Jan use.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, this was fun.
Yeah, and the next couple of chapters are going to be Rand and then leading up into Veins of Gold. Like I
can't believe we're here already.
Yeah, I mean, we have, I think, 2 more episodes and then the epilogue planned. So buckle up, Buttercup. Like, we are absolutely going into the end of this book, and this chapter, obviously, all that great speech by Egwene and the reunification of the chapter, like, awesome conclusion to an awesome plot line. We are in the Sanderlanche for sure.
It's amazing.
So it's funny because this book, it is, if Jordan had the slog, Sanderson has this Sanderlanche, but that does mean the beginning of his books can be kind of slow and lack some details. Like, I think he gets better at adding more details in his later books and maybe spreading out his conclusions. But man, sometimes the first half of his books, you're like, could I get a resolution to any of these plot lines, please?
Yeah. No, it's a rough book for him. The very first Robert Jordan Brandon Sanderson combo book. It's that first half was rough, but boy, this Sanderlanche, once it kicks in, man, does it tickle good.
Yeah, no, it's really good, right? Like, and it's why his other books, you know, I know you haven't done a lot of reading of his other stuff, but like, and why it's often hard to get, you know, people into it, because like you have to get past some of the beginning stuff, but it is worth it for the Sanderlanches, right? That's really why I read it. Now, could he spread those out a little bit more? Maybe, you know, would his books be a little bit of an easier read if like there was, you know, there wasn't such a hard, unified conclusion at the end of every single book, and maybe he could spread those out so some of them fell in the beginning of certain books. I mean, I think that would be nice. But then I think he likes having big conclusions at the end of his books, because each book becomes its own blockbuster, right? And it's very movie-centric or TV show-centric.
It has a formula that works and has no interest in deviating from it.
Mm-hmm. So I get why he does it. Yeah, I think especially here in these series, he tortures the timeline a little bit to get it done.
No, remember also, he's a much more seasoned writer now than he was when he was doing this.
True.
Like, I mean, he was such a less seasoned writer when he got tapped to do this. This was such a growth experience for him.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that was fun. Is there anything else we need to talk about before the world ends?
Yeah, I got nothing else.
Yeah, no, just hope calmer heads prevail out there.
Yeah, I could do with an Egwene showing up to herd these fucking cats right about now. I could use like maybe one Egwene per continent of people who think that they're supposed to be in charge. I need more Egwene in my global leader monitors. Like, oh my god. Anyway, let's turn recording off.
Thanks everybody for listening. Really appreciate it. Thanks for sticking in for almost another book. And 2 left to go. Very excited about it.
We have a lot of pages to cover today.
Yeah, each chapter isn't necessarily a lot of pages, but they're both medium-sized chapters, which leads to one pretty epic number of pages.
But it's another one of those things where the scenes blend so well together that it seems strange to not just do it.
To do the whole thing, yeah. I do have a joke I keep meaning to tell.
Do it.
All right. So a Borderlander, a Shan Chan, and an Aiel walk into a blood bank at the same time to give blood. The Borderlander sits down and claims, "I will give the most blood because I am the biggest of us, and my blood is type A, which will help many patients." The Shan Chan sits down and claims, "My blood is a direct descendant of Arta Pendrag, and is type B." And finally, Fael sits down and says, "I think I'm a typo."
I hate it so much. It's so good. It's bad. It's good again. Thank you, Athlon. Thank you for the validation.
Well, I was hoping I'd get away before anyone heard that.
He says after turning recording on. Okay. You know, we still get like 1,000 downloads of any given episode, right?
Oh, fuck, right. I forgot people still listen to this thing. Could you people stop that, please? It's really embarrassing.
Quit perceiving me, says the media appearance person.
Aradia, I am in my closet where nobody can hear me. The doors are shut. The house is empty. this doesn't go anywhere in my brain besides into the computer and to you. And like, that's it. Like, that's why I let you edit out all the parts that need to get edited out, because sometimes I forget that it goes out there.
Yeah, podcasting's a weird experience.
It is.
I'm glad we have a live audience component to the process,
yes,
so that we do at least remember there is a third party, even if they are very small compared to the true audience.
It does. That helps. And then also meeting people at cons is really helpful to remember that, like,
humanizes it.
It very much humanizes it. That, like, oh yes, people, I'm not just shouting into a text fields that come back to me. It's amazing. Like, I know the internet is people, right? Like, it's not that hard to remember, but man, meeting those, at least a couple of those people, really does help put faces to the names and the messages and the effort and the fandom. And like, it's just like, it actually, if you put a theater of 1,000 people together, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, it's because we're really good at reaching for social connection as social animals, but we've had the internet for like no time at all. Right. Our brains, like, we can intellectually bridge that gap, but like the architecture of our brains is not, or the architecture of our brains expects a person to be in front of you or to not exist, right? Like, the internet is a very new addition. And then, I remember last year at WhatCon, hanging out with someone or riding with someone in the car, and they're interacting with me like we totally know each other. Like, there's just this sense of familiarity, and I'm just like, who are you? It was Holger, who'd been in chat a whole bunch, in live recordings, like a whole bunch, but like, how there's not a little orange text floating next to your head. How am I supposed to know who you are?
Right, yeah. There's no
way. Only you know my voice. I don't know your voice. And it was just such a wild experience of like, this person is very comfortable with me, and as soon as I know who they are, it just switches this thing. It's like, again, the human brain has not evolved to have this happen. We are only intellectually bridging the gap. Like, physiologically, we are so confused sometimes.
I will say I've had the very, very weird experience, right, where you meet somebody and they are a stranger, right? You meet them, you shake their hand, they're a stranger, and then they say, oh, hi, I'm screen name. And all of a sudden, they go from stranger to friend, and the way that my brain, just like that, the way my brain totally changes the way it perceives their face, because there is context to go around it. And I would never have been able to describe it before the internet, because like, you meet people and you get to know them and you know what they look like and you know their mannerisms and you know their voices, and like, that all comes together. But yeah, when you get to know people over the internet and you never get any of that context, and then you meet them, it's like a little puzzle piece falling into place. And then you feel weird, because I remember the first time I met the White Tower girls, right? Like, literally, it was me and Patrick sitting at a bar, and they come up to us and they start talking to us, like, because they know who we are, because we have our images out there, and they hadn't put their images out there, so they recognized us. So they recognized us, and they started talking to us, because we were on a panel together, and there was this moment where they're like, oh, we're from the White Tower podcast, and then, oh yeah, okay, all of a sudden Jess and Jen became Jess and Jen, not these two random girls who start talking to me at the bar. Right.
I mean, even to some extent, the flatness of Zoom does that.
Yeah.
I met someone recently in person for the first time after having talked with them for several hours on Zoom. And like, we were at a larger event, and so I see this person and she waves at me, and I'm like, she looks really familiar, but I cannot place it. And then eventually I connected her face with the flat 2-dimensional version I remembered from Zoom. And it was that same kind of switch from stranger to friend, except that there was this weird, it was just Zoom. It was just the 2-dimensionality of Zoom. Like, I literally knew her face, but not in 3D. I mean, every time I see you in person, I'm always like, wow, you're so different. Like, because you're small and down here.
Right.
The way that I'm looking down at you and you're little, and then I see you in person and I'm looking up at you and you're like a normal sized person. It's very different. It like takes a bit of a reframe to be like, oh, that's actually what he looks like. This is actually not the real you.
My favorite is when meeting Brian and Bliss from Tarvalon After Dark in person, and having seen them on Zoom and thinking they were about the same size person, when Brian is is about your size, right? Like,
right, yeah, he's a waif.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
I'm not a waif, but he's more slender than I am.
Yes, and Bliss is a mountain of a man, right? He's large.
Yes,
he's large.
He is a brick shit
Yeah.
house. I think the category he's in.
And I was like, oh, I had no idea from Zoom. Like, you just cannot tell.
Yeah, that's the thing too, is everyone on the internet is the same height and has
Right.
the same accent.
Right.
You're all speaking my accent because, unless I've heard you in person. And once I've talked to you in person and had conversations with you in person, then your text voice sounds like your voice.
Right.
But until then, you sound like me. And then, yeah, meeting people in person being like, wow, turns out the part where we're a global community means we don't all sound the same.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then Athlon made a very cool comment in chat about the experience as a blind person. Yeah, all through voice and then audio technology. Yeah. Yeah, the signal chain that a sound passes through. It's like the Zoom flattening effect from 3D to 2D.
Right.
If you listen to someone through layers of compression and packetization as it moves through an internet connection or a technology connection, then that's a similar kind of discontinuity from the real thing.
And one thing I've really tried to do in the tech stream from the beginning is I try and reduce the number of different black boxes the audio has to go through to get to you. Now, for the live stream, it goes through actually a lot more black boxes because I have a bunch of different things in the link to make it happen live. And so that's like you get Zoom compression and you get audio dropouts, and like the live streaming is hard, right? Like it's hard.
Yeah.
But we're recording independently at our own microphones, so we get high quality audio recorded and compressed. We do high quality MP3. I don't do lossless just because we're not doing music here. My voice isn't that big of a range.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So, and then you do high quality MP3s, and then you edit once and export that into a high quality compression. And the idea is like, at no point are you losing interesting information, and that gives the best chance of you hearing high quality output. Whereas I think a lot of other podcasts, they use these tools, right, that exists on the internet, and their audio is getting compressed in the computer, it's getting compressed when it's being sent to the third party, it's getting compressed when it's stored, it's getting compressed when it's sent back to them, it's getting compressed when it's edited. It's not, you don't lose a lot of quality every time, but every time you lose just a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I am in the process of starting another podcast, and I am the podcast guru for those co-hosts. They know nothing about podcasting, so of course I have them all doing local recordings, and I'm just patiently walking them through. Yes, we're going to all need to download Audacity, and here's how to use it, and so on and so forth. And yeah, sometimes their Zoom connections are shit, and I'm just so happy knowing that stuttering, it goes too slow and then it goes too fast thing that Zoom does, like, that's only for us in live. It's not gonna be there for the audience for all time. It makes me feel good because, yeah.
There's just different demands on computers when you're doing things in real time versus when you have as much time as the processing takes.
Yeah, and if we were doing like audiobooks, like super professional, we would be doing lossless
Right,
because
absolutely.
it would matter for that context.
Right.
It's just that we're more of a band and a bar sort of quality.
Right.
So like there's a certain floor on how into the weeds we have to get.
I do got to say though, with these new microphones, I would feel much more comfortable attempting an audiobook than I did with the Blue Yetis, because the Blue Yetis are good for what we're doing, but these are much more. The Shures are much more professional quality.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Because they're sure.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Walked right into that one.
Yeah, you did. All right, on that, is there anything else? I have a new car. I don't know if I have told you about that. Yeah.
Yes, update us on that.
Yeah, so I don't know. Did I tell you about the accident during the last recording?
Yes, it's in the after show of the last recording.
So basically, I went to the car dealership and said, hey, I'm getting this payment for my car because they're just going to buy it from me. The State Farm's going to buy it from me. And I basically found a car that was the exact same car that I wrecked. It's I ended up
the autism sameness. We love it.
Like I don't want to have to learn a new car. I don't have to try and do a car payment. It's 3 years newer, but it literally had almost the exact same mileage. It had less than 1,000 miles difference on it between the mileage between the two. It doesn't have the leather. There's missing a couple. It's a slightly lower trim package, right? So, but it's newer. So it's got a few upgraded things, right? So it doesn't have leather seats. It doesn't have heated seats. It doesn't have a sunroof, which I was all lucky to have, but all of those were like, I don't really care about, it's like whatever. Like they're nice, but I do not care.
It's a slight bummer to have them taken away once you get used to them, but
exactly.
Like, you'll live.
Right. And so, yeah, and what the dealership was actually very nice. They let me pay the difference between, because State Farm hasn't sent me the check yet, but I had the letter saying they were going to send me a check. And so he let me pay the difference and promised to give him the check and pay him out within like 10 days. And he let me take the car.
That's very nice.
With just paying, which was like $1,000 between what I was going to. So I got out of there, and what's funny is I just got a bonus from work, which almost exactly matched that. So
wow, the universe was like, so sorry about that.
Yeah, here's you can just get the new car for this amount. Some people are going to be like, well, you should have taken advantage of that to try and get a nicer car, a better situation. I'm just like, no, I was fine with my car. I was going to drive that Honda for another 20 years, and I still will.
You just want to Control Z on the car accident, and you did. You just literally got a Control Z
right on
that situation.
Right.
That's nice. That's great. Less change good.
Never tried to talk me into a minivan, and I was like, next car. Like, even if we have kids within the next year or two, it's going to be another like 5 years before we're hauling around sports equipment. So like, the minivan is premature at this point, but I like the Honda Odyssey would totally be my next car. I think most people who have trucks should actually get a minivan. You can haul way more shit, and it's inside.
But it's so much less macho.
Exactly.
To have a minivan.
Oh my God! Yeah, come at me, bro.
Yeah, no, Brandon is in the process of trying desperately to get us a pickup truck because we actually need one.
Yeah, well, you live on a freaking
living
farm.
out in the country,
and
like we have to take our garbage to the dump. We need dirt and gravel. Like these are not indoor car activities.
Right.
And
I said most people in the city who, I should say who I see who are in the city. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so real. Yeah, a lot of people don't need pickup trucks, but. Yeah, why don't y'all people sell us your damn pickup truck? God, this is taking forever.
They're hard to get a hold of, man. They're expensive. Yeah.
Truly.
Mm-hmm. No, it's what did I hear recently? Rich people don't drive Lexuses and Mercedes. Rich people drive pickup trucks.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Please rate and review us on your podcast app, and consider supporting us on Patreon for ad-free episodes. What Spoilers is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website at foxandravenmedia.com.